Hi, I'm John Boitnott, reporter and writer for Entrepreneur Media. And this is our cryptocurrency panel. We got the four of you guys up here. So we'll start all the way at the end with William. And what we'll do is we'll just give you 20, 30 seconds each to say who you are and what you do. And then we'll also give you a chance a little bit to go more into what you're currently doing as well.
All right. Is my mic on? Yes, it is. Hello, everyone. I'm William Peckham, based out of Beijing. Like everybody here, I wear many hats, but I'm a partner in Central Fund. We invest in cross-border tech companies. I also have a small advisory firm where I help foreign tech companies enter the Chinese market, hooking them up with corporate partnerships, local capital, government relationships, pretty much one-stop shop for making them successful in China. Been in China, in and out of China for 8 years, total time about 5 years. And I'm very excited to be here and meet everybody. Thank you.
Jack.
Hi everyone. I'm Jack Lee. I'm management partner of HCM Capital, which is part of the Foxconn technology group. We mainly do the investments into the what we call the digital economy company, including like blockchain and including those kind of new I would say the new consumption and also AI and related this kind of thing, because we believe in the future that will be a tremendous opportunity to grow, and also with our shareholder Foxconn, we can help this kind of to fulfill this kind of growth by the industrial resource to help either in B2B or in B2C.
Salil.
Hey everyone. Is the mic on? Yeah, great. I'm Salil Pitroda. I run a fund that invests in technology companies across stages, primarily in fintech, software, and internet. By way of background, I was trained on Wall Street in the private equity and hedge fund businesses, and then I had my own startup that was a mobile payments company that was acquired by MasterCard. And last but not least, I'm fortunate to be an investor in blockchain, which is the leading digital asset platform in the world, and that's how I know Chris.
All right, Chris, your turn.
So I'm Chris. I work at Blockchain. We just happened to be early in the space and picked an awesome name. That's great for SEO. We're one of the oldest companies in this space. As Salil mentioned, we're the largest digital platform in the world. We have about 18 million users. We're growing about 100% a year. And there's 3 products that we essentially offer. Mostly we're well known for our digital wallet, which is a non-custodial wallet that right now we offer Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then the second product is our Block Explorer, which is kind of the Bloomberg News for Bitcoin. So that's where people go to sort of search transactions. Our third product is our API. We have the most popular API, which allows developers and enterprises to interact with the Bitcoin protocol.
That's great. Let's get the products sort of out of the way in the beginning. We'll go all the way over to William, back to you again. And tell us about RoboMed. That's the company that you work with.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
So one of my clients is RoboMed. Don't want to do a full pitch here, but just a brief overview. RoboMed is a health tech blockchain-based company based out of Moscow. RoboMed is seeking to revolutionize how patients in mostly emerging markets get access to best-in-class healthcare. So essentially we do 2 things. We help patients get access to best-in-class healthcare. We help hospitals lower their marketing costs, get access to more patients, and streamline medical processes. And how we do that is using Harvard Medical School's aggregated best-in-class practices in diagnosing thousands of medical cases. We bring doctors and hospitals through a standardized process of diagnosis and treatment of thousands of medical diseases. And each step of that, each step of those clinical processes is recorded on a smart contract on a blockchain. So you can imagine, in a country like China, where clinical pathways are not always best practice to a certain type of diagnosis. Having a doctor be forced to enter in what they're doing in each phase of a diagnosis is quite revolutionary, actually. And also, you have globally $800 billion being spent out of pocket in the healthcare market. So we're not targeting people who are insured. We're targeting those who are paying out of pocket. They have money. They care about getting best-in-class healthcare treatment, and they're just not getting it. So it's a huge market opportunity.
All right, great. I wanted to start off, I wanted to ask you, so we were discussing earlier about how many people in the world, Chris, do you think are using Bitcoin at this point? There's 18 million people using your wallet, but sort of, I mean, obviously we won't hold you to it, but what are your thoughts around that?
I mean, it's hard to estimate, but my guess is around 50 to 60 million people have used are using it right now.
The other sort of more basic question, and a lot of us know some basics, but a fork, what is a fork? I wasn't entirely sure. I thought maybe, what is it, like a stock split? No, obviously it's not, but you had a very good explanation for it earlier. Chris, I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about what a fork is.
So
there's one coming up in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, so how many people here have Bitcoin or bought cryptocurrency? So obviously you know that the price of Bitcoin has gone up a lot. So, November is going to be a fascinating month because around November 16th, there's going to be a hard fork, which basically there's been this debate going on for a long time in the Bitcoin space about the block size. Obviously, the block size relates to the blockchain. And the block size is currently 1 megabyte. So what's been happening is as interest in Bitcoin has increased, the number of transactions has increased, therefore the blocks are getting full. And each time you transact, you're paying a little mining fee to the miners in order to get for them to put your transaction into the block. Well, when it's full, you start to have competition. So when I started the transaction fee, when I started in 2015, the transaction fee was like 3 cents. Now it's $4 sometimes. So it's really caused congestion in the space. So there's been a big debate in the community. A lot of hot arguments have gone through about increasing the block size debate. So instead of arguing about it, they said we're going to have a hard fork on this block, and it looks like it's going to happen on November 16th. And not sure what's going to happen, but there could be 2 Bitcoins, there could be 1 Bitcoin, there could be 3. So it'll be very interesting to see. So, if you have Bitcoins now, you might have twice that amount on November 16th.
All right, got it. Yeah, that's such a good explanation. Now I feel like I'm an expert. All right, so moving to Salil. One of the main themes of this conference is that there's more money coming from outside Silicon Valley for companies than there is inside. So are you seeing this with Bitcoin companies? Where do you see this coming in the next 2-3 years? And then maybe I want Jack's opinion after yours too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd make a couple of points. I mean, as we all know, we're in a period of great global synchronized economic growth. Monetary policy is accommodative. There's a lot of money in the world. Silicon Valley tech companies have typically been a great way to generate good returns. So I definitely see capital flowing into Silicon Valley in general. I would say also companies in Silicon Valley are realizing that there are great global markets for products and services and for talent, so that's another vector of globalization. As it pertains to Bitcoin and blockchain, obviously the very architectural tenet of digital money is cross-border, and so we're seeing money from a variety of geographies trying to understand and invest in these technologies, and ultimately blockchain and Bitcoin are a mechanism for globalization of value exchange, right? So it's a very pertinent topic for this conference and this audience.
Great. Yeah, Jack, what are your thoughts around that? Where's it looking in the coming years with money coming in from the outside being bigger than the money that's being invested inside Silicon Valley?
Yeah. For example, our company started from Taiwan and China. We have a large operation in China. I mean, Foxconn Group. However, We also doing the expansion investment here in the U.S. So in the future, what we think is that by investing the technology, good technology startup here in Silicon Valley and also in other like Europe and other I would say more advanced country, getting good technology, and then can have leverage those technology to be applied into those emerging market. I think that will be the main thing, because we believe, for example, like China, now people know use mobile payment, right? It's been prevailing. It's almost cashless. Also, no credit card. Less and less credit card use. It's the same thing. In the future, this kind of a blockchain-enabled, decentralized, new digital economy ecosystem, we believe a lot of application and the market acceptance will come from this kind of emerging market. So that's our main thing. That's why we have our office in Beijing, Shanghai, and also we are setting out our team here. And because we are looking for more investment opportunity here, and also invest more technology, and then bring them to work in South China, Southeast Asia, etc. That kind of thing. Because we believe that's the good opportunity to have those kind of new decentralized ecosystem to be carried on.
Yeah, I'd like to actually just stay with you and dive a little bit deeper just into that as far as improving financial inclusion, improving the lives of people in other countries. You had talked to me about B2C applications for Bitcoin in the coming years, as well as B2B applications that are existing right now, and what that means, how it might change the way that Wall Street is, and then with that, I might go back to Salil and ask him about that. But yeah, go for it.
Yeah, let's say for B2C. For example, now recently we invested in a company also is doing this kind of peer-to-peer network payment.
That's Abra, right?
Yes, I know the other panelists also mentioned about that. We led the investment because we think its business model is very advanced. I think it should be the only one in the world doing that. Instead of storing customer or consumers' money in their digital wallet by getting some kind of e-money license, Abra indeed is an application. It's like I would say it's like an oracle in the new blockchain or digital economy world. It's like an oracle. It's like a software company. Abra doesn't hold your money, but indeed it's a smart contract hold your money, right? When you put a US dollar or euro into Abra convert your money into a Bitcoin. However, Abra has its own hedging mechanism to help you protect the same value of a US dollar. So the value you store in the wallet won't be changed, something like that. And by using this kind of mechanism, you can easily swap into Bitcoin or other digital currency in the future. And also you can easily remit into other countries for other people instantaneously.
Yeah. So that's the B2C. That's B2C.
That's B2C. For the B2B, we've been very interested in look at the supply chain space. Especially, we get started. We founded a company. We invested in a company early this year. We call Chain Finance. That company is aiming to do the blockchain-enabled automation in supply chain finance. So we do the supply chain finance first. We help fund the SME doing the deep tier financing, which means those, for example, like a Foxconn supply chain, only the first tier supplier, the level 1 supplier, they can get some funding from the bank, from a financial institution. But the deeper tier, like say upper tier, third tier, is hard, especially those are small enterprise. So we use this kind of blockchain technology to help issue this kind of account payable notes or the digital notes can be passed through not only into the tier 1, but also can pass through to the tier 2, tier 3, or even more. So we think this kind of deep tier financing is perfectly we can use blockchain technology to make it more transferable and also trust to be distributed.
Okay, great. We'll talk more about that in a bit, but I wanted to go to William and ask him about, so one of the big things I know we all wanted to talk perhaps about is China. So I kind of wanted to make sure that we got into the China ICO thing. So how has that affected, William, you work in China, right? Or,
I have.
So yeah, oh, you have. You're not currently, but
I live there currently.
oh, great. All right.
There, yeah.
So what effect is it having on companies that are interested in getting involved in blockchain in China, and what effect is it having on the companies there already, and all that?
Well, I feel a little bit silly talking about that next to Jack Lee, but I'm humbled to be on stage with you. No, right now there's a lot of misunderstanding in Silicon Valley about blockchain technology and crypto assets in China. And I just want to start off by saying blockchain technology and crypto assets should be strongly decoupled, right? Bitcoin is not blockchain, blockchain is not Bitcoin. There's so much misunderstanding there. Blockchain technology companies are still thriving in China, right? And there are a lot of ways of de-tokenizing blockchain companies that are currently tokenized and using fiat currencies and creating flip switches where when the government, and it's inevitable that they will, they switch over, they create the regulatory framework that allows for crypto assets to be traded again. Switch can be turned on, and software protocols can be put into place where companies are tokenized again. So right now, I work with clients who are issuing tokens in, say, Singapore. Blockchain companies, foreign blockchain companies, issuing tokens in Singapore. They have a marketing arm in Shanghai or Beijing, and a marketing arm in Silicon Valley. And so they are operating in China. They're complying with local laws, but they're still blockchain companies that have crypto that also have tokens in other markets, and they're operating legally. So the market for ICOs in China is not dead. It will be thriving. We just have to wait for the government research lab that has been created to issue the appropriate regulatory framework, which will be coming.
That sounds great. All right, so Salil, let's move to you. I wanted to go to you earlier, but I just kept moving around, trying to get everyone their equal time, But so your experiences and your learnings from blockchain, how is this helping you understand the space as you're looking for companies right now to invest in?
Absolutely, John. So blockchain has definitely been an innovator in the space. A couple of learnings on the consumer side and then the enterprise side. On the consumer side, we're really seeing remittances, cross-border remittances, as a use case that is tipped. It's better, faster, and cheaper through the use of Bitcoin and blockchain. We're seeing a lot of people use Bitcoin as a store of value, especially in emerging markets where there's geopolitical and monetary policy risk, where digital currencies have held up value very well. And then over the long term, I think we'll see specific payment use cases as well on the consumer side. On the enterprise side, my sense is that's a little bit further out because there's business process change that's involved. But just in the worlds I look at, one can see specific back-end processes on Wall Street being enabled on the distributed ledger in a better, faster, cheaper way. You can see things like central banks issuing their own currencies, their own digital currencies. And finally, as was alluded to, there is a financing universe around ICOs that will happen for certain types of companies. So I think we're just in the very, very beginning stages of this. I think the implications are very broad, they're very profound, and it'll be interesting to see the sequencing of specific use cases.
All right, Chris, I'd like to, so jumping off that a little bit, as far as the future and ICOs and how that's going to affect the way that people own parts of companies and all of that stuff, what do you see happening in the next 5-10 years? Are ICOs going to change the way venture capital is done completely, or what does that look like?
I do think ICOs will change the way companies raise money. Now, do I think the craziness that's happening now, that's insanity, is going to continue? I think it's going to last until people start going to jail. I mean, we joke about this. I was just at a conference with about 100 crypto companies, and we're trying to swap stories who has the funniest ICO pitch that they've got. And someone told me about Fetch Coin, which is the blockchain for your cat and dog. And they're probably going to raise money. And then at the same day, there was a New York Times story about Mayweather promoted an ICO, and
The boxer.
Yeah, Mayweather, the boxer, promoted an ICO, and 2 to 3 founders were indicted. So, there's a lot of noise right now, but the trend line looks very strong. Tokenization will really change how it's done. The most powerful regulatory body in the US is the SEC, and the SEC's already fired its first warning shot, warning that they're going to go after tokens that they think are securities. And there are people still moving forward, and when, I'm constantly getting contact about, help me with your ICOs, I'm like, my first advice is talk to a lawyer. Because I would say 98 to 99% of them right now are probably illegal securities. And, there are a couple that are doing it properly. They've spoken to lawyers, and there are a couple that are actually utility tokens. So, once China and the US and everyone else gets a regulatory framework and how you properly do a token that's non-security, then it'll change how fundraising is done in the future.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, and I don't know if Galen Moore is here. I'm a little bit embarrassed if he is, but I was just at Coin Agenda in Vegas, and Galen Moore is the CEO of it's called Token Report, and he was saying how, and he also just had a great quote in a Crunchbase article, and he was saying how out of something like 246 companies that he analyzed, only 20 actually used their native token for the functioning of their internal network, and that's a shocking number, right? I mean, that's crazy, right? So there's just so much secondary market trading. I think that's got to be changed.
Yeah, Jack, I want to, if you could talk about the ICOs in China and the Wild West that is as it exists right now. Any thoughts on that? Yeah.
I think although we haven't directly invested in ICO yet, but we believe, of course, let me answer your question first, and later I'll comment more on what we are thinking. Because China, it's been people, if you're familiar with China, the banking system, that's I think maybe over 50 or 60% is shadow banking, right? The government is already because many people is getting troubled by this kind of shadow banking system, then lost the money, of those saving, So the ICO is it suddenly came up and then become another kind of it's kind of crowdfunding, it's like another kind of shadow banking, So definitely government will stop it immediately, So that's why Chinese government stopped the ICO 2 months ago. But in the future, I think, as some people say, I think more and more regulatory, will come up, because we don't deny. I believe this will be a very good way of I would call the new financial market. Let's talk about 2 ways. One is the capital raising. That will be new way of raising capital instead of just pure equity, right? This kind of tokenized. Second, if you look at financial market or security market, then this will be also come out with the new regulation. Then this kind of token can be properly traded. So we believe in the future, this kind of a decentralized, tokenized, this kind of a security market will exist and also will prevail, I believe, sooner or later, because it's more efficient, right? It's support for this kind of new digital economy, right? But it takes time, by the regulator, government, you gotta do the rule. You gotta have a regulation before it's really become more and more acceptable.
Salil, you provide a bit of a perspective from the Wall Street side of things. Are they quaking in their boots right now? Or this sounds like a lot of work for them to figure out how they're going to have new underwriting, new lawyers. How does that look?
I think people are finally starting to take notice that there may be different ways of doing things in a more democratic and decentralized and transparent fashion. I think it's very, very early, so I would agree with some of the comments around tokenization as being a dramatic impact, but tokens for utility I think are very acceptable, where they have inherent value. Tokens as security are very, very speculative right now and very early, and so I think we need a much more broad regulatory framework before that becomes mainstream and retail investors and institutional investors and capital at scale can avail themselves of these funding mechanisms. So I think people are starting to notice, people are getting smart on things, but I think it will be a gradual evolution.
Yeah, go for it.
I think just like investor investing in the traditional equity, when the market, the ICO, this kind of thing coming more calm down, I would say, still what you want to invest in the ICO or this kind of token, still you gotta have an underlying business, just like right the entrepreneur, the company, right? You raise capital. If there's no underlying soundly good business, then no one will invest you, right? No VC will invest you. The same thing, So you cannot just, by saying a concept and raise, through ICO, this kind of thing. I think this will come down, but later. Good
Chris,
story.
Yeah, got it. Thanks, Jack. Chris, your perspective, you are working with a company that was sort of there long before any of this ICO talk, and so you're seeing all this frothiness right now. What's your perspective being the CEO over at blockchain?
The interest in this space is growing faster than I expected. When I first got at the company, one of our big concerns was regulatory concern, and now it's one of my least concerns for our company. This past year, this ICO stuff that we've all just talked about, it's causing this frothiness, and I think people are going to go to jail, and then that we're going to have like another Mt. Gox or Silk Road. And then the price will come down, and then things will settle. Then there'll be a regulatory environment, and then the great technology will move forward. It's great that the price of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies is going up because it gets people's interest in it. But the problem with everyone focusing on the price is it gets people from Wall Street interested in the speculation, and they stop focusing on what the amazing blockchain technology and how it's going to revolutionize most industries. So, and just to level set, and I tell this to people all the time, in terms of technology development, in terms of blockchain infrastructure, we're not even at 1.0. And a lot of these things, and a lot of these companies and these ICOs, they're talking about 3.0 technology. I'm like, that's great in 10 years. So, people just need a level set where we are. The future is bright, it's going to be amazing, but we need a lot of engineering time to get there.
Okay, yeah, we haven't had our Netscape moment yet. I keep on hearing that. All right, we'll go back to William about companies looking for an expansion. Let's go back to China. What do you tell? What's your advice to companies looking for some kind of an expansion to China? What do you look for in a company like that? Just your thoughts around that.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know about advice, but what I look for in companies, generally three things. I look for products that might represent companies at a $50 million cap here, market cap, but that could be a $500 million market cap in China. I'll give you one quick example, Candy Lab. Candy Lab is a technology that you can scan a retailer and interact with virtual objects, right? Kind of like a Pokemon Go, but for retailing. You can apply that to the real estate sector in China and make way more money, right? Those guys, they don't know how to do that necessarily, but dev teams in China would. So that's a really great application. I also look for teams who are willing to give up autonomy, to yield autonomy to a local China team. We saw how Uber crashed at that, right, and was beaten out by Didi. And I also, I generally look for technologies that are hard to replicate. So.
Thank you, William. We'll go back to Jack real quick. I wanted to ask you about, and anyone can chime in on this. So there's sometimes an impression among people that if you run a criminal operation, you can use Bitcoin. Bitcoin's perfect for that, right? No, it's not true at all. It's too transparent. Tell me about that.
Actually, Bitcoin is bad for doing this kind of criminal operation. Cash may be the best because let's say as I say because the Bitcoin is all written in blockchain, right? All the blockchain is traceable. So when there's more and more regulation on this kind of Bitcoin exchange and Bitcoin transaction, I think all the thing is being recorded, and then can be traceable. So it's not good.
All right, so we have 1 minute left. I want to just go through all four of you guys and say, is it a bubble right now? Do you know? Do you not know? Don't worry, we're not holding you. We'll start with you, Chris.
In terms of where I think I think it's a temporary bubble, but if you look at the trend line, it's very strong. So, as the stock market has dips, this will have a dip, but for the long term, the stock market was a pretty good investment.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I think blockchain is not in a bubble. Cryptocurrencies maybe they've had a parabolic rise, so it's reasonable to expect a pullback short term. But I'd agree with Chris that long term, if you see crypto being just a part of institutional allocation similar to gold, then there's massive upside from here.
Your thoughts, Jack?
Okay, let's think about it's like a 1998 or 1999 of internet era.
Yeah.
Right? Then there's a bubble. We believe there's a bubble, especially the Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency. And then, however, blockchain is good. Blockchain is good. And later, so we are looking for the company, like the next Amazon, Google, in the what we call the Internet of Value, which is the second generation of internet. I mean, the first generation is the Internet of Information. Right.
Your turn. 10 seconds.
I just bought more Bitcoin, so no, go baby, go.
All right, awesome. All right, round of applause for the lovely panel.